I want America to be the shining city on a hill. Perhaps I'm a sucker for people saying things like that. I know Ronald Reagan said it. And I don't necessarily want to take Nancy Pelosi's spotlighting quote on Ronald Reagan, but that particular quote I do like. I like this idea of trying to hold yourself to a higher level, meaning this idea of an evolved society. Not necessarily a perfect society, but at the very least an evolved society. James Baldwin made this point that I love America. And I love it so much I'm going to criticize the shit out of it. Now, he didn't say the shit out of it, but for all intents and purposes, I'm paraphrasing. And I think of it in, I guess, similar terms. We just had a midterm election. And this supposedly greatest democracy on earth, this unimpeachable democracy or representative government, failures. Utter failures. Stuff that just shouldn't happen in regards to a basic democracy, let alone one touting itself as being the greatest democracy on the planet. That's nonsense. It looks like a banana republic in some of these states. That said, there were bright spots. And there were bitter potential defeats. So there's a recount taking place from the standpoint of Andrew Gillum. I, of course, wanted Gillum to win. I didn't necessarily think he was perfect, but he was the guy who I wanted to win. Beto got the stuffing beat out of him, but he ran a respectable race in Texas, running as a left-winger in deep, deep red Texas. I watched the debate between Beto and Ted Cruz and thought I was on another goddamn planet, which gives you this idea on the demographic that Ted Cruz was trying to craft his message for. It's bizarre and weird, but it's Texas. There were a few lefties that got beat that I wanted to win. Ojeda was a long shot, but he was running it again. Deep red Texas, and he did a damn good job. I'm sorry, in West Virginia, he did a damn good job. There was another lefty, what is her name? Jess King was running in Pennsylvania that I was looking at. I think she lost. But there were winners. Ocasio-Cortez was one of the winners. We're still waiting for some of the results, such as Stacey Abrams. She's refusing to concede in that race in Georgia, and I don't blame her because that race was an embarrassing display of shenanigans, where Republicans are gaming the system in order to suppress the number of people that can vote, particularly the number of people that vote for the other party. That said, our revolution, Bernie Sanders' group, had wins and losses, of course, like everybody else, but they had several wins. Martinez Quezada, State Senate. Raul Rivala, I remember him. Kate Harrison, Berkeley City Council. Rigel Robinson, I want to keep this to federal. Let's see, election, Hayward County City Council, Richmond City Council, San Diego City Council. I'm not trying to undermine states. It just, if nobody lives in those states, nobody's going to know what those are. James Elia, State Representative for the 7th District. Emily Soroto. Is that, what's his name's wife? No, that can't be. David Soroto. Maybe I'm thinking of a wrong name, but State, Carlos State, Shelley State, Sheikh Ram State, one Miss Tulsi Gabbard, who I would support like nobody's business if she ran for the president or if she was in some kind of contention for vice president. Fritz Kagi, Cook County, Brandon Johnson, all of these, many of these are state. Oh, he's a judge. Chuy Garcia, U.S. House of Representatives, right on Chuy. Meta Muller, County Board. Rachel Ventura. I guess my point is, there have been wins. House of Delegates from Maryland, Baltimore County. So there have been wins. There have been some bright spots. Apparently there are two socialists that are in Congress right now. I would imagine one Bernie Sanders, one Ocasio-Cortez. Keith Ellison, he's going back. Angela Conley. This is, again, state. Omar from Minnesota, U.S. House of Representatives. Welcome to the Congress. So it's not without their wins. New Mexico, Dad Hall, U.S. House of Representatives, excellent. State Senate, Jessica Ramos. Now, here's the catch. Ocasio-Cortez. Shenanigans. Utter shenanigans. Gillum is in a race for governor. This is a high pressure race with DeSantis. And at the end of that race, you find that Broward County finds like a box of votes somewhere. And it slow walks the counting of these votes, meaning it takes days. This just smells. It looks bad. Now, Rick Scott takes this with no information and screams that there's some kind of election shenanigans going on here. Of course, he only takes that perspective because he wants to win and he wants to try to stop the vote count. Marco Rubio tweets out a video that Tim Canova put out attesting that votes were being put on trucks or something. I'm sorry, guys. All of these people, for the most part, just want to win, and so they're doing whatever they need to do to win. Here's the thing. A judge has just come out and told them to cut it out. Florida judge says there's no evidence of fraud in Broward, denies Scott's request to impound equipment, tells everyone to tone down the rhetoric because the nation is watching. The nation is watching. Indeed. In another case, Republicans in Arizona was trying to stop the vote count. Now, they were trying to stop the vote count because as the absentee ballots were being counted, they realized they began to lose. Many of those absentees were for Democrats, and they wanted to slow the count and stop that count by any means that they could stop that count because they didn't want to lose based on that count. Constitution be damned. Screw who really won the contest. We just want to win, so we don't really care about democracy or representative government. We just want to win. Banana Republic. If you take a trip to Georgia, you have a situation where Brian Kemp is running against Stacey Abrams. Abrams has been trying to expand the number of votes or people who vote in the elections because, after all, if you're in a representative government, shouldn't you want to get as many people to vote as possible? That's just basics of democracy. Abrams was caught on an audio tape afraid of this because he thought that this would adversely affect his chances of winning the race. Now, he has slow-walked the ability of people to register to vote, and this goes with this basic Republican playbook of shutting down certain polling locations, of putting in voter ID laws, especially after the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. We're going to get back to that one in a moment. And trying to find every way to game the system. Now, this is not unique to Republicans because Democrats did the exact same thing in the primaries. Sloppier, but did something similar in the primaries in order to gut Sanders supporters. This is some banana republic shit. The greatest democracy on earth. Finding ways to keep people off the voter rolls or stopping the count of votes. Be it Florida, Arizona, or Georgia. This is some banana republic shit. Democrats are taking the House. The question really became, what are Democrats going to do once they take the House? Now, Nancy Pelosi came out with I mean, the idea that Nancy Pelosi is taking a gavel in and of itself is somewhat problematic. You have a public, the majority of the public, 70% wants Medicare for all. Over 50%, the majority of the public wants free college and tuition. The majority wants an expansion of Social Security. The majority wants $15 an hour minimum wage. That's where the majority of the country is. Nancy Pelosi's not there. Nancy Pelosi at this point is an outlier. Why are you putting an outlier as the leader of your particular party? Not to mention, I'm not alone in this assessment. Look at this. Let's see, where is it? Pelosi will have overwhelming support of Democrats. That said, the majority of the Democrats in the country, when you ask them, wanted a different speaker. They were okay with Nancy. They don't necessarily hate her, but they wanted a different Speaker of the House. And you can understand why. She doesn't represent their values. And yet, that's the person who they're putting at the top of the ticket. $100 million Nancy Pelosi. As if she is somehow representative of the Democratic Party. And maybe, and to be honest, she is. What does the Democratic Party stand for? And are they continuing to just be relative to whatever the Republican Party is? And shouldn't there be an overarching narrative of what they are, separate and distinct from what the other party is? Be who you are. And let me know who you are. Every time you get in front of a mic, tell me who you are. And to some degree, I guess they do. Not the message I would imagine they were trying to convey. But ultimately, they ran the electoral campaign. Trump is going to eat babies. Trump is going to kick puppies. The Republican Party is batshit crazy. They have scars on their knuckles from dragging them from pillar to post. Those are the people you want in office. That's true. But what does that have to do with you? And why can't you be something that's separate and distinct from the other party? The public has spoken in regards to what he wants. The polling is relatively clear. And yet, you have a Democratic Party that takes God knows how much sums of money and acts in the behest of the money of the people who give them the cash. There have been bright spots. Meaning, there have been some people like Tulsi Gabbard, Ocasio-Cortez, of course, Bernie Sanders, but he's not a Democrat. There have been many Democrats at this point that have decided to forego cash because they realize it's hard to run in a race and get lefties to vote for me if those lefties realize I am a corporate hack. That said, the majority are still taking cash and doing favors. And even still, the person who's at the head of the party is Miss Nancy Pelosi with $100 million in the bank. Do you believe the $100 million Nancy Pelosi in any way understands the angst and difficulty of a person in this particular society? I mean, the median wage is $30,000 a year. Healthcare costs have gone up. Education costs has gone up. Costs across the board have gone up. $100 million Nancy Pelosi is utterly insulated and above it all. Why is somebody like that representing the workers in the 99%? Somebody who's above it all, who looks at the world through a glass, utterly detached from the world to which she's supposed to assist. $100 million Nancy. The laughing face. One last point, though, to back up, at least to give some level of applause to Democrats here. They finally realized the Republicans were eating their lunch for the past 10 years in this very specific playbook, or for the past 20, 30 years, in this very specific playbook of cheating with the voting bloc. They've allowed them to do this. The Democratic Party never really did anything about it, which is amazing, seeing as you were losing votes persistently through methods like this, and you didn't do squat about it. Now, I understand allowing the unions to be destroyed because you've alienated yourself from the unions. You assume that the unions were going to vote for you regardless because, after all, Like Bill Clinton said, you have nowhere else to go, and you can use fear as a tool to get them for your support as opposed to actually giving them something to vote for. Fair enough. But there is no excuse for allowing the Voting Rights Act and all these other things to be utterly destroyed without having recourse. Well, they're feckless in this because they only own one branch of government, but Democrats say the first bill will focus on strengthening democracy at home. Listen to this. Democrats will take control of the U.S. House in January with big items topping their legislative to-do list. Remove obstacles to voting, close loopholes in government's ethics law, and reduce the influence of political money. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the last part means. Reduce it how? Party leaders say the first legislative vote in the House will come for H.R. 1, a magnum opus of provisions that the Democrats believe will strengthen the United States democratic institutions and structures. I wish you would have did that when you guys had control of the House, Senate, and the presidency. It's three very basic things that I think the public will want to see, said Representative John Sabarines from Maryland, who spearheads campaign finance and government ethics efforts for the House Democratic Caucus. He said H.R. 1 would demonstrate that we hear the message loud and clear. But even Sabarines admits that the quick vote is just the first step. Republicans who control the Senate are unlikely to pass the bill, and Trump is unlikely to sign it. It's easy to push bills when you know nobody's going to sign those bills. It's easy to do that. That is the easiest thing in the world. I'm going to make a bill that says the moon is made of Swiss cheese. Let's see where that goes. The bill would establish automatic voter registration and reinvigorate the Voting Rights Act, crippled by the Supreme Court in 2013. It will take away redistricting power from state legislatures and give it to independent commissions. Yes, I agree with all that. I have full agreement with all of those things. I've even said those things. So yes, I agree with those things. I just wish you would have did that when you had power to do something about it for real. But hey, we'll see. If they just so happen to get a Democratic president, and if they so happen to get a Democratic Senate, let's see if this is still on the to-do list. Until then, it's one of those things that you could put out there and rev up your base because it sounds good. The question is, do you follow through with it? Corporate blowjobs, oh God. Sham sheep herder and his GIMP suit buddy Brooks would happily support one corporate blowjob less. You know, the sad part about that, Balthazar, you're probably right. Oh, I'm missing something. Dan Campbell. There's barely any hope no matter what we do, but there's definitely hope if we continue to elect those who've already screwed us. Oh, but there is definitely no hope if we continue to elect those who's already screwed us. Dan, you have no idea how much I agree with you. Now, maybe you do since you watch my channel. One blowjob less, like Balthazar said. That argument is purely relative to the other party. Like, it's hard to get that across. You build, Hillary Clinton builds one concentration camp less. Great. Great. 4 years pass. And now, instead of building one concentration camp, because it's one concentration camp less than the other party, it's not one concentration camp. There's a difference in those things. You might have 10 concentration camps with the other guy trying to build 11. It's entirely relative to the other party. And as it slides further and further to the right, they look at you and say you have nowhere else to go. Aren't you sick of this? At what point do you really want to get something done? And what I mean by at what point do you want to get something done, it's this recognition that the model to which we've been going by needs to be broken. Everybody is terrified of Donald Trump saying, oh my God, you have to do this, otherwise you're going to get Trump. We got Trump. We got Trump. The world hasn't ended. Yes, it's fucking horrible, but the world hasn't ended. I'm saying, get behind and being willing to abdicate from the process of randomly voting for Democrats. Put that vote into a third party if you want to put that vote into a third party. The point is not necessarily that third party wins. The point is that you can threaten the other side with potentially losing. If the Democratic Party is so concerned about that, and people like Sam Sheepdog, maybe he needs to focus his eye on the Democratic Party to get them to appropriate the things that the third party is doing. I agree with this from the standpoint of the Voting Rights Act, strengthening the Voting Rights Act. I agree that there should be automatic voter registration. They should have did that shit years ago. They've been eating your lunch for like 20 years. When Al Gore lost that election, the first thing that they should have done was this. First thing. This is somewhat of a chess thing. Why on earth would you allow them to attack the structures that allowed you to take office and to take power? They just ate their lunch. Everyday Progressive Show. To ignore that is to ignore reality. Right-wingers love ignoring reality. Yes, they do love ignoring reality. I've some of these Trump supporters have scared the shit out of me. I'll tell you that much. Let's see. Excelsior! Rest in peace, Stan Lee. You made me a true believer out of all of us. That was David Sorota's wife. That's who I thought. Okay, so I wasn't insane on that. That was David Sorota's wife who won in Colorado, by the way. You also should talk about all the progressive ballot measures that won. Yes, that's a good point. Like the Independent Redistricting Committee in Colorado. Now that part I didn't know. I do know that the environmental ballot measures took a hit in various states. In Florida, they passed the ballot measures that would allow people who had a criminal record to vote. Thumbs up Florida on that one. If that, God, that's a clear degree of voter suppression. You have people who essentially serve their time. Some of these are not even violent crimes. And for the rest of their life, they're not able to vote. Florida has essentially said, okay, this is wrong. We're going to get rid of that. Meaning over 1 million people are going to get their voting rights. Gold star, Florida. Let's see. Ballot measures for pot all throughout the United States. If I'm not mistaken, those went well. But yeah, I don't have it in front of me. But yes, you're right, Balthazar. Oh God, don't say it. Hillary Clinton presidency. We need to be honest about what a Hillary Clinton presidency will be like. Do you think the GOP will let her nominate a Supreme Court pick and confirm it? Fuck no. We'd be gridlock and there would be a huge blowback in 2018 and the GOP might be able to, what is this, amend, the Constitution. I know what you're saying. So your argument is, and I agree with you on this argument, by the way. They were willing to hold up the Supreme Court for 2 years. John McCain was even questioning whether or not we need a Supreme Court at all. That's where they were. They were assuming that Hillary Clinton was going to win that election, and assuming that she was going to win the election, had made up their mind to some degree that maybe we don't need a Supreme Court. Maybe we don't need a Supreme Court. Now, Democrats don't have the stones for anything like that, but they should. If the guy is coming to the party who's bringing a gun and you're bringing a knife, you're going to get shot. I'm making a point that to some degree, take it like like international politics. Part of the reason that Vladimir Putin is creating these new series of weapons is because the United States has surrounded Russia on this front. Well, the United States now looks at Russia and says, okay, you got that hypersonic weapons, then we need to have our weapons. China creates a missile, creates a bomb that can knock a satellite out the sky. Okay, we need space elements ourselves, meaning we need to be able to knock out elements in space. And the United States shows a test case of a bullet essentially hitting another bullet with a missile being knocked out of the sky by another missile. Star Wars-esque projects. Why do you think they're doing these things? The moment that one country does it, the other country is forced to do it just to keep a certain degree of parity with the other country. You can't allow one to have a certain degree of dominance over a particular sphere, because that will cause you adverse problems in a sense, because they would use that to dominate you. If the guy brings a gun to a knife fight or to a gunfight, and you bring a knife, you're getting shot. I don't care how good you are with that knife. The same thing applies here. The Republican Party has taken it upon themselves to suppress the vote all throughout the United States in areas to which they've held sway. In areas where they could, once the Voting Rights Act was gone, they decided, hey, the Voting Rights Act is gone. It's been decoupled from its testicles. Let's go hog wild. And they have. Let's make it harder for Americans to vote. Think about the mentality here. Let's make it harder for Americans to vote. Your ideas are so disliked that your only pathway in order to get into office is making it harder for other Americans to vote within a representative government. That's not a representative government. That's something else. Now, what does the Democratic Party do? Nothing. They do squat. They allow them to take a certain degree of dominance in this particular sphere of the electoral system. That's fucking nonsense. You've allowed them to attack elements of your base and the ability for your base to vote, meaning you've allowed yourself to lose. Interstate cross-checks scrub thousands of various areas, and you can make a strong case that part of the reason why Hillary Clinton lost was because of that. Yes, she should have landslided Donald Trump if they would have had like Bernie Sanders on the ballot. And yes, she was entirely corrupt. No, she didn't go to Wisconsin. Yes, she chose Tim Kaine. Yes, she cheated Bernie Sanders. Yes, she was essentially had a criminal investigation while she was literally running for office. All of those things are true. And all of those things are reasons for why she failed miserably to a reality show host. But even with all that, that was the last straw, the interstate crosscheck. When Al Gore lost that race because they stopped the count in Florida, what did the Democrats do? Nothing. Despite the fact that Al Gore had more votes, he lost the Electoral College, Democrats did nothing. When FDR won a fourth term, I think it was the third and fourth term, what did Republicans do? They put a stamp or stopped the president from being able to run for more than twice because they didn't want dominance by the other party. Republicans are in it to win it, regardless of what you want to say. Constitution be damned. And fact of the matter is, Democrats need to take a certain page from their book. Just saying. Just saying. And Balthazar, I agree with you. If Hillary Clinton would have ran in that race, we're assuming that they would have allowed her picks to be confirmed. Now, the thing is, it depends on the margins. If they would have gotten to the point where they would have lost the Senate, then yeah, they could have very well held up her picks indefinitely. Indefinitely. So, I'm skeptical on this thing of, you know, a Hillary Clinton president would have been the panacea. Now, an argument can be made that, well, holding up her picks is a little bit different than allowing Brett Kavanaugh to be confirmed. That is true. Brett Kavanaugh is a knuckle dragger, and apparently is somewhat of a religious maniac. But there are larger consequences to Hillary Clinton winning that election as opposed to just the immediacy of the election. And like you said, what takes place in 2020 after Clinton, or 2018 for that matter, all throughout the country with a Hillary Clinton presidency. I agree with you on this, Balthazar. I agree with you on this. I'm kind of in that camp, but I'm slowly inching towards burn it all down with cryptocurrency. Oh, God. You and this cryptocurrency. You and this cryptocurrency. Let's see. Stacey Abrams did the best she could. She just had a sketchy election. Ryan Chan's sketchy election. That is putting it mildly. Oh, God, that is putting it mildly. The order of chaos. The more progressives the base of the party become, the more important the party's leadership will become. Yes. Yes. Agreed. Agreed. But right now, even if you're not talking about the base of the country, if the majority of the country is 70% for Medicare for all, just imagine what the base is. Meaning the base of the Democratic Party was already there. It was already there 10, 15 years ago. This was a you had me at hello type thing for the base of the Democratic Party. The leadership wasn't there. The leadership is being dragged to Jesus. That's what's taking place. At least that's what I think is taking place. By the same token, $100 million Nancy Pelosi is completely ignoring him. Jamarl, can you please stop saying for Hillary Clinton to go away? She's a neoliberal. I know it's been a bumpy for you. It's difficult because you haven't fully embraced neoliberalism and its greatness. And its greatness of neoliberalism. I know, Rob. I know. Meta Vinci. Business is ruthless. The issue of the United States' politics is run by business interests. Yes, that's true. Agreed. I mean, because understand, you have an oligarchy in place. You have 90% of the people who win their election gets the most money, meaning the person who gets the most money wins their election 90% of the time. If that's true, which it is true, this came on Washington Post, then who are you attending yourself to? Like, regardless of what you may want, ultimately, in order for you to stay in office, you need to attend to your financial matters. I'm saying this as somebody who gets very focused myself in regards to the things that are important, meaning what is my primary concern in order to accomplish this particular goal. I would imagine that if you're running in politics, you have to have this kind of same idea of things. What is the way that I fund myself and maintain this dimension while I do whatever I do in office? Well, if the way that you fund yourself is essentially begging for money 70% of the time from people who have money, then you're probably going to attend to the people who have money because that allows you to stay in office. When Obama gets $1 billion to run, when Hillary Clinton gets $1 billion to run, when Trump gets what, $500-600 million to run, what do you think they're doing for that money? You think they're just getting that money for no reason? No, that money is an investment. When Donald Trump goes and he passed that tax cut, and 83% of the money goes to the top 1%, fucks his base over magnificently. I don't even know if they know, but he fucks their base over magnificently. Why do you think he's doing that? A, it's part of his class. B, the tax cut affects him. And he sells it as, I'm helping jobs. I'm helping jobs by giving the top 1% more cash. Essentially trickle-down economics. Selling people a bill of goods. People who are desperate and hurting. And yes, some of them might be racist, but racist people feel pain too. And those people, some of them are too far gone where you would never get them, but some used to be Democrats. That's the part that people miss. Hillary Clinton running so hard, hugging every dark baby that she could find. I have hot sauce in my pocket. It seems so fake and it seems so phony. And it simultaneously alienates her own base. When Tom Perez comes out and he sends a note saying that Hillary Clinton needs to tar Bernie Sanders as the white candidate because that would alienate the base. You know, the reverse is also true, Tom. The reverse is also true. You ignore economics at your own peril. And ignore economics, ignoring it at your own peril. You have an X factor. People are actually hurting. People are actually struggling. And those people get angry, especially when they feel the political edifices let them down. And especially when they feel that the party that is supposed to represent these things don't. It fundamentally delegitimizes the left, disembowels anything that was meant as kind of an amelioration of the excesses of the capitalistic system. Just saying. How many people think voting is the main path to a free society? I don't think it's the main path, but I think it is a partial path. It depends on who you put in that office, and it depends on whether or not you have structures that can help that person. Meaning, movements in the past was the thing that allowed the stuff to propagate itself. So you had third parties pressing on the political system, in which case certain party members had to appropriate those things. But you also had people, political leaders, that thought that this stuff can go up in a blaze. Like Teddy Roosevelt talks about this idea that the working class at some point will rise up and essentially take everything, take it all, because they've been fucked over so magnificently. FDR, same thing. His greatest effort was saving capitalism. These people, they had this thing in their heads. They were aware in the time, they were living in the time of revolutions, where revolutions in Germany. I mean, look at World War I, during the time where Germany, the armistice, and you had full-on revolts going all throughout German society, and where the people at the top were told that their soldiers would not fire on the revolutionaries, and you've lost control of your navy because they would no longer follow your orders. This is the world that these guys were living in. That was just 20 years prior to FDR. Not to mention the Russian Revolution was clear and present on their mind. This idea that if we don't do something to blunt the edges of this capitalistic system, blunt the edges of people being fucked over, those people would take it all. They would take it all. You don't have that now. When the Soviet Union went belly up, they thought we won. There is no other alternative. It is just us. We're all Fukuyamas. The end of the world. Not so much. Not so much. This is not the end of history. This is not the end of history. Let's see. GOP strats. Oh God, I don't know what that means. GOP already confirmed they would have kept the court at 8 if Hillary Clinton won 2016. Look at the GOP average voter age. Their voter base is literally dying. They have every incentive to reduce the public's ability to vote, as it can only benefit them. Yes, yes, yes. What is it? Weigel? Weigel comes out and says, I don't want everybody to vote. I just, elections aren't won by having everybody to vote. Elections are won by getting your people to vote. That's an amazing statement. Fuck democracy. I don't care what the rest of the public wants. I care what I want. And I want to inflict my will on the rest of the population, even if that will is a small percentage of the population. That is an amazing thing to say. But this is kind of my point when I make the argument that the GOP only cares about winning. They don't care about rule of law, constitution, none of the stuff. They care about winning. Democrats are feckless and weak and invertebrates. And for the most part, they go along with this charade as if that party is not, fucking insane. Fucking insane. How are you this weak in losing to these knuckle draggers? Nobody trusts them. That's why. People trust people who know who they are, even if they disagree with them. I can trust that guy. At the very least, I know what that guy represents and what that guy stands for. What the fuck does the Democratic Party stand for? And do you know what they stand for? And could they even tell you what they stand for? Honestly, tell you what they stand for. $100 million Nancy Pelosi is the person who's at the head of that party. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? If Susan Sarandon, Jimmy Dore, Russia, Julian Assange, Putin, time-traveling Russian alien robots, etc. swung 2016, why were the ads in 2018 not catering to those people? I only saw ads catering to voters. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Especially those time-traveling fucking robots. Those things are brutal, man. Those things can turn an election like that. I suppose Nick Bronner's effort to build a party. People keep telling me about the Nick Bronner thing. This sucks. I had to drive now. I keep asking Jamal to talk about Ojeda in 2020. Alright, so Ojeda in 2020. Look, I like Ojeda. Climate is the lens through which we must view politics. Yes. Ish, Trudy. Like, come on. If you're a coal miner and you were in West Virginia, say you just hit the lotto, you were living in West Virginia, and 25% of the people in West Virginia, the kids, are in poverty. 19% of the people are in poverty, and your coal mining jobs are dwindling, and that is the main industry that's in that area. And you have weak, spineless, invertebrate politicians who are essentially corporate hacks, and they're saying, look, we need to do something about this climate change stuff. Be honest. What will your reaction be? I know, Trudy, 12 years, but be honest. Their disaster is immediate. Their disaster is immediate. Look, I understand where you're coming from in this, and I even agree with you. So, you know, you're talking to somebody who's a fellow acolyte on this. We go to the same church. By the same token, I'm stuck with this thing that we're not a United States. All of us have various things that we push for and that we want to accomplish. And if the physical needs of an individual are at stake, then the physical needs of the individual are going to come first. If you have a family member, if you have a wife, if you have a kid, you have your own person that you need to feed, that is going to be far more pressing to you in the immediate than the 12 years that we have left. Be honest. It's true. Trudy, I don't care about coal miners when it comes to Republican versus Democrats. No. I'm making the point. I'm using coal miners as an example because I'm trying to make this point that we are in different spots, meaning not everybody is essentially in the same place. All of us have, environment is not absolute. Your environment is going to drive your behavior to some degree. The people in that particular area are going to want, are going to be resentful of you taking their jobs, even though those jobs need to end because the world is at stake. I hope that makes sense. And I'm saying this as someone who agrees with you. Unless something takes place where you deal with their immediate concerns, it will be difficult to get anything done. Now, the reason why I say that, it just to make it plain, if the median wage in this country is $30,000 a year, which it is, based on Social Security Administration, if health insurance costs are going up, college debt at this point is up to what, like $1 trillion. The reason why Medicare for All was one of the top priorities was because clearly people need health care, and people's health care bills are going through the roof while their wages haven't gone anywhere. Now, you go and talk to these people and say, look, I understand your wages aren't going anywhere. I understand your health care costs are going through the roof. I understand you're bogged down in trillions of dollars and in high school and college debt. I understand that there's probably another economic crash on the horizon. I understand all these things, but we need to do something about climate change. You're not going to get any takers. They're not insane for it, even though they kind of are insane. A rational point of view will look at this thing as a larger context and say, well, wait a minute, the world is at stake. But whether the world is at stake or not, your immediate concerns are going to drive your behavior. To a certain dispassionate distance, if you're away from it all, looking through a glass, yes, climate change is one of those things that is a big deal, and I think it's a big deal. But the same token, if your needs are at stake, climate is going to matter less. Which is why it wasn't at the top of the list of things people were caring about. Trudy, I am an acolyte of this church, so understand I agree with you. I fundamentally agree with you. But you're not going to get any takers. Just saying. Just saying. But I do agree with you. The lens that we need to look at through this stuff is climate, because if your world falls apart, that's it. You know, it's like the world's at stake. It's like, yeah, man, but I gotta feed my kid. It's like, yeah, I know, but the world is at stake. We're facing oblivion. Yeah, but this fucking kid, I gotta feed my kid. But Trudy, I agree with you. You disagree. Explain. You gotta explain. Jamal, I heard an historian named Jamarl Thomas. Jamarl Thomas is fucking amazing. that the origins of slavery comes from the Crusades and Pan-European project. Maybe this concept could help us understand racism today. Gerald Horne is awesome. You know, he was on this show. And he gave this awesome history lesson about African Americans in this country, dealing with the Civil War and the birth of this nation, the American Revolution. He's fucking phenomenal. He is phenomenal. Haberdashers have gone extinct due to climate pollution. Fred Edwards. Martian Villager. Imperialism is not a side issue. It is the main issue. Yes. Yes. I would argue capitalism. Now, the reason I say that is because capitalism to some degree drives imperialism. After all, what are they going to another country for? Just for shits and giggles? They're going to appropriate the resources, be it labor or be it the resources themselves. For instance, the banana republics. Or if you want to even talk about slavery, these black bodies that were used as cattle. Imperialism is somewhat of a outgrowth of the capitalistic structure, meaning you maximize your own wealth. Okay, how do I maximize my wealth? Well, I need to get labor for dirt cheap, and I need to get supplies for dirt cheap. Okay, how do I do that? Well, I can get that banana for dirt cheap, and I can pay off that government in order to keep those workers under a certain degree of subjugation, where I could pay them little to no money. At one point, they weren't even paying them real money. They were paying them in these bucks of the company. I'm talking about Guatemala. And then when the workers rise up, I can get the CIA, through my political donations, to attack that nation and undermine the government itself. Imperialism is an outgrowth. It's not the thing in and of itself. It's an outgrowth. Restraining Peter Dow. But Jamal, some people will be incapable of being restrained. Poor Peter wouldn't be able to cope with not being on a doomed campaign. Oh, that's funny. You're talking about Hillary Clinton running again. Oh, God, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. I saw their report in Politico. It's one of my stories that I'm going to do next. But God damn it, that sucks. That sucks. That woman needs to take a fucking hint. Retrain. That's it. Oh, I see. Retraining. I'm sorry. I think mine is funnier, Balthazar. I think restraining Peter Dow is funnier. But okay. Retraining Peter Dow. But Jamal, some people will be incapable of being retrained. Poor Peter wouldn't be able to cope with not being on a doomed campaign. The sinking ship that is Hillary Clinton. Oh, God. That's fucking hilarious. That's funny. And painful. There's slave trades in Libya caused by who? Hillary Clinton. Yes. Hillary Clinton and Obama. Yes. Progressive Voice is awesome, Jamal. Admit it. I told you Progressive Voice is fucking Thanos. He's God of all reality, as far as I'm concerned. Hillary again. I guess this election they perfected their cheating. I doubt it. Hillary would not get into it. That woman would not win. I'm sorry. She is hated. She is hated. There's a bunch of people in a bubble that love her. A bunch of howling, howler monkeys that are Hillary supporters. And I mean white, black, and everything in between. So it's not being racist. I'm talking more so as a cadence of the individual, less about their identity in this point. Those people are fucking lunatics. A lunatic, I typically don't get into Twitter brawls. And if I see two people going at it and escalating and drag me into it, I stay out of it. They escalate it, is what it is. One man punching another man and another man taking the punch and punching back. Fair enough. I don't need to get involved. I saw one of the cases, though, where a lunatic Hillary supporter, rabid, foaming at the mouth, with gross teeth, starts attacking a guy who was being just utterly sane. He said nothing wrong. And she just lost it. She started off on the first tweet, rabid. I let this play out. And she, again, gets more and more insulting, more and more rabid, more and more batshit crazy. And he's trying to be sane. But what does a sane person do faced with insanity? I don't know the answer to that question. And I'm not as good of a person as some of the other people. And so my response was to attack her after this went 4 ways through, making the point that you're a lunatic. Your candidate lost to reality show hosts. And after losing to such an embarrassing person, why would any supporter that supported somebody who lost to a reality show host be on Twitter talking about anything? This is the time where you shut the fuck up and you go home. She said something like, "Eat my black ass," or something. Which was less insulting and just more funny. And so there was nothing else that needed to be said. It was just fucking hilarious. But it's like, why are you attacking this guy? JT, 2020 is a repeat of Hillary Clinton versus Trump. Will you go green again? Yes. Yes. Undoubtedly, completely yes. Yes. Easy. The choice becomes easy at that point. There's a country that told Hillary Clinton to kick rocks twice. Kick rocks. We don't want you. Go away. We will prefer... We don't think he's all that competent. We think he's a little insane. Yes, he said grab him by the pussy. No, we don't think he has any experience. No, we don't think he's suitable for the job. But yes, we'll take him over you. Kick rocks. Second time. And to this, kick rocks the second time, she decides, you know what? Maybe America needs me. No, they don't. America doesn't need you. America doesn't want you. Go home. Go home. Kick rocks. Trudy, Sanders is my only hope. Hope is strong, but if Sanders runs, Trudy, he has my vote. He has my vote. Emma Vigeland said, hell to Hillary. That's the other thing. There's a lot of people who backed Hillary in that last campaign who would not back her in this campaign. So, I mean, you have people who are cringing. That book Shattered. You should hear how people in her own camp was talking about her. It's fucking amazing. Destiny Breakdown. Destiny Breakdown. Did you see Destiny's breakdown of Hassan Picker's debate? Destiny has such an incredible grasp on debate strategy versus Republicans that it makes Cal and all of TYT look amateur. I don't know who Destiny is. Yeah, I don't know who Destiny is. I have to check her out. Send me her email address. Or send me the link to the video, Balthazar. I'll check her out. Destiny Breakdown. That's funny. I love the name. If you vote inside the duopoly, it means you have successfully manipulated you to their agenda. Yes and no. It depends on the agenda, right? Or yes, say yes. Yes and no. That's a yes and no. That's a ish. Yeah, that's a ish. Again, people's environment is different. It depends on the person. I mean, people have different goals. Now, this is assuming that they're not rabid Trump supporters or rabid Hillary supporters where they don't necessarily know. For your work, Jamal, my last name is a French one. Patrick Seguin. Seguin? Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate it. I really do, man. Your support helps keep this channel going. In real terms, like real ways. I love doing the news, so I'm always appreciative that you guys have given me the opportunity to do the news. Yeah, I can't get across that. In fact, there's no way to get across that. All I can say is thank you. It really is appreciated. Let's see. I forgot what I was saying. I'm sorry. Oh, right. If you vote inside the duopoly, it means you've been transformed to their agenda. Again, that depends. If you were... I would vote for Ocasio-Cortez. Does it mean that I've been captured into her agenda? Whatever her agenda is. Depends on what her agenda is, right? It depends on what my agenda is in voting for her in regards to what I want to see take place. There's no issue with that if what you want is in alignment with what they're doing. The only issue becomes if what you want is not in alignment with what they're doing, meaning you're voting for somebody who's doing something that is not in your interests. The reason this channel hits so hard at this idea of vote for the person who represents your interests is for that reason. As long as what you want is what the candidate is doing, and this is not in absolute terms because nobody's going to be exactly what you want across the board, but at the very least, if they don't trespass on your red lines, there's no conflict of interest. You know, the energy at that point flows directly from the person to the candidate, and the candidate uses it in terms and ways in which the individual wants. No conflict. Hillary Clinton, there's a conflict. I would even argue Donald Trump, there's a conflict. Because many of those people who voted for Donald Trump were hurting. You may call them racist, but racist people feel pain too. And racist people can go to the polls just like everybody else and vote for the person who they believe at the very least is going to speak to their pain, or at the very least is going to be, you know, the epitome of what they consider to be what they want to take place. Their rage and anger at the political establishment that's let them down. I don't have this belief that you can get all of them. There's a percentage of them that you would never get. That you would never get. Creatures. Teeth. Unempathetic. Angry. Vicious. Disgusting human beings. But that's not all. I guess that's the point I'm trying to get across. I watch some of these people and they're so unempathetic that it's insane to me. By the same token, that's not all. And I'm saying that's not all because I've met people that you can get. The only difference is getting them requires you to go beyond just this thing of identity politics, because they would never get to identity politics. They would never understand it. You know, it's like you're talking to a white person and you're trying to explain from your perspective of the world. I don't need him to see my perspective of the world. The catch of the matter is the policies that are going to be enacted need to be enacted across the board that benefits all. Otherwise, you're not going to get those people, because you're going to be talking about identity and they're not going to get it. They're not going to fundamentally get it. They're going to miss it. They're not going to see what somebody said that's somewhat racist or that's a dog whistle. I've had people on this channel where DeSantis will say stuff and they were like, I don't get it. I don't see it. Well, there's a history, and African Americans are uniquely knowledgeable of that history, seeing as that's the history that we've lived. And you're not going to get them. That's all I'm saying. You're not going to get them with this idea of identity because they're not going to understand it. And some of the stuff that Donald Trump says that comes across as being completely brutally racist, they don't see it that way. They look at it and just say, Donald Trump's just being Trump. He didn't mean it that way. Yeah, he didn't mean it that way to you, but you're not the one who's had a history of dealing with this type of stuff. Environment drives behavior, and their understanding of the world doesn't fully take into account a certain degree of racial sensitivity. Fair enough. By the same token, those people are not ungettable. They just can't be gotten purely through this lens of identity politics. I hope that makes sense. The arguments that need to take place at an economic level where you are going to benefit them economically. The moment that Democrats took economics off the table, you lost this guy. I'm telling you, I've spoken to people like this. Spoken to him. Just saying. John Hill, have you heard of Yang? Look him up. Andrew Yang. I have heard of Andrew Yang. But I don't know much about him. So, fair enough. You must read all 3 of Yuval Noah Harari's book. All 3. Yuval Noah Harari's. I don't know if you're fucking with me, Luca, but I'll check them out. This could be a kid's book for all I know, but I'll check it out, Luca. fact, let me Google this now. You might be fucking around. Oh, I see. Okay. We have become gods. On humanity's divine potential and AI's arms race. Yeah, the AI thing is terrifying, man. He has more than 3, Luca. It's one on money, special operations in the age, 21 lessons for the 21st century, a brief history. What is this? Homo Deus, a brief history of tomorrow. That's funny. And it's a play off of A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Sapiens, a brief history of humankind. I'll check them out, Luca. How do you get Mariachi Q to pop up? So it has to do with a donation to Streamlabs. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the highest donation is the one that gets the Q. And so let's say if somebody sends a donation through Streamlabs, it sends the regular Spock. Somebody sends a higher donation, it'll get the Mariachi Q because that was the highest donation. If someone higher still, it kind of does it that way. I thought I had 3. I thought I had the spaceship, Spock, and Q. Q being the highest one. Bernie affiliation. Do you think Bernie should kick the Democrats now? Is he stronger in a three-way than compromise to Tom when you lead with your lawsuits for Tom when you lead with your lawsuits for us? The answer is no, by the way. And Balthazar. Okay, this is the link. He should hit Democrats, yes. He should hit them on their failures, yes. Should he break away to a third party?
When he said that Cuban...
Oh, I see. Post-debate with Hassan Picker. 3 hours? This thing went 3 hours? Are you fucking kidding me? That's insane. That's shit. That is insane. I'll check them out, Balthazar, but 3 hours is a little formidable, man, even for my standards. That is formidable. So Balthazar, he needs to hit Democrats, yes, because he needs to create a distinction between who they are and who he is, especially going up into the primaries. But breaking away to a third party, that I don't agree with. That I don't agree with. Hillary Clinton is running again. Oh God. Oh God. God, man. Oh, for fuck's sake. She burned $1 billion on the White House lawn. And she wants to do it again. Jamal, the Mariachi Q is culturally appropriation. How un-PC of you. Oh, I don't need to be politically correct. Fuck that. That's the wrong left. Berman 23, when the minority faction of the Wings broke away in the 1850s, only took 4 years to win a presidency. Bernie should follow suit instead of being like one less lash from the whip seat. One less lash from the whip seater. I love that. I love that. I love that. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Jamal gives us another go away. No more go away Hillary videos. No more. I've spoken my piece. I've spoken my piece on that one. I can't believe that woman is running again. That is embarrassing. She just doesn't give. She just wants to continuously get embarrassed. Barbara Lee and Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know if Barbara Lee wants to run. Ring of Fire is useless, and half of the time Cal is useless. I didn't even know Ring of the Fire still came on. Like, I didn't even know that was still a thing. Guy just comes out, you know, he's a Democrat, so he's angry that people aren't voting for Democrats. It's like, whatever. Jamal, it's time to ask, what happened? happened? What happened? I love that. Cedar may be a fanboy of you one day. Joe Howard. I don't know, man. I don't know. Cedar's not going to be a fanboy. Cedar's too jealous. He's full of ego and jealousy. He's a ball Sam Cedar, basically. Oh, you're talking about the other guy. Yeah, yeah. People are declaring their sides, apparently. Trudy, Hillary won't run. I can't believe that woman is going to run again. Like, I know they're trying to play up this news, try to create this kind of groundswell and this kind of buzz. But I can't believe that woman will run again. That level of hubris at the point where a country has told her twice to kick rocks. Get. You're not wanted. Beat it. Scram. Fuck out the way. Like, and however you want to put it, over and over and over again, they have gotten that lesson across in the most brutal terms imaginable. An election. 50 million people said kick rocks. 50 million people said kick rocks. You don't believe that the establishment won't keep pushing a play from the playbook that works. But it didn't work. She failed twice. She failed. I'd be more inclined to believe they'll try to run Biden than Clinton. Sam needs to get out and talk to the people. Jennifer Constance. Yeah, you're talking about comfortable Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar is too comfortable in his, you know, in his ivory tower, getting his MSNBC checks. I mean, the fact that he's affiliated with MSNBC should give you some idea on his political leanings in and of itself. No, in his mind, keep voting Democrat. Vote Democrat, regardless of the failures. But Majority Report and TYT told me Hillary Clinton wasn't irrelevant. In the woods, nobody. They didn't tell you that, Sander. It worked. She got a huge paycheck, and we have a major far-right wing agenda in the country. Corporatism wins. Oh, I see what you mean. But I don't think she wanted to lose. Like, that's my point. Like, everybody had assumed that Hillary Clinton would win. And from the standpoint of Hillary, she wanted to win. She wanted to win. She wanted to win. I don't believe she wanted to lose. I think she was shocked as shit when she lost. She didn't even write a concession speech. She couldn't even come out and give the concession speech on the night that she lost. It was embarrassing. I call him Sam Cedar, the Democrat cheerleader. Oh, that's awesome. The Democrat cheerleader. All right. I'm going to end this. We've gone over an hour. We've had a good crowd, though. We have over 120 people here, so fucking A. Look, guys, if you enjoy this is going to be up for my patrons. Even $1 helps. I appreciate all of the patrons that assist and support the content. And you can... This will be unlisted immediately afterwards, but my patrons will have access to it, and I do once of these a week. So... You can't have a live chat with 120 people. Why not? We've just did it. We've just did. The Word of Chaos. We've just did. We just did. Alright. I'm going to end it here. Thanks, guys. I totally appreciate this. Time to get voter shamed. Go green. And that's the other funny part, right? These people aren't even Democrats. Jimmy Dore is not even a Democrat. And he's screaming at Jimmy Dore to support his candidate. The guy's not even a Democrat. I don't understand why they believe that people are owed, or Democrats are owed their vote. Like, that's so bizarre to me. Like, you have a democratic process where people go out and vote and push for the people who they want. And there's certain things that they want, in which case they support the candidate. And when they don't get what they want, they don't support the candidate. His response is not people have different things that they want and either they're going to support or not support. His response is, why aren't you supporting my candidate? And why aren't you voting for my person? And why are you talking about my person bad? I don't like that. Why don't you say the same thing to DeSantis? Why is DeSantis talking about your guy bad? Why is the Republicans talking about your guy bad? Why is anybody who's not part of the Democratic Party and in the opposition party talking about your guy bad? Because he's in an opposition party. What your party is representing is not necessarily something that the person wants. That's just somewhat of a flat fact of reality. Jimmy Dore is responding to environmental circumstances, just like everybody else's environmental circumstances. It is a bizarre and massively irrational response to believe that the Democratic Party is somehow owed the vote. Is owed that vote. Utter lunacy and nonsense. It's nonsense. You go get that vote. That vote is not owed to you. If Jimmy Dore had that much power, Gillum should have went on his show. Just saying. When Ro Khanna backed Crowley and people flipped out, what did Ro Khanna do? Ro Khanna was responsive. Ro Khanna was even freaked out by the whole thing, said, I'm never doing this again. My bad. Because ultimately that was his base. He acknowledged that that was his base. Those are the people that were going to get him elected. He understood that those were the people that were going to get him elected. And just like any Republican or any Democrat that's hugging their corporate sources, in Ro Khanna's case, he hugged his base. I like that. I like that. If Gillum felt some kind of way about it, Gillum should have took 30 minutes out of his schedule, hell, 15, and went on Dore's show. Explained himself. Just saying. Just saying. Hey, Maris, I gave Ro Khanna props on that. I gave him props on that too, I think. Jimmy Dore, about real issues affecting people, he doesn't have drunk syndrome like TYT. Yeah. We are beyond this point where people are just willfully allowing themselves to be the politically abused spouse of the Democratic Party. You beat me, you slap me, you sleep with the maid, you kick my kid, you come out the bathroom, don't flush your toilet, you don't wash your hands, you make ham sandwiches and give them to me while you do this stuff. I'm sick of this, but okay, I'll vote for you anyway. I'll make your sandwich anyway. At some point, people wake the fuck up and they say, no, sir, I'm done. I'm not going to let you sleep with the maid. I'm not going to let you slap my kid. I am not going to let you slap me. I'm not going to let you call me names. And I may not necessarily have somewhere to go per se, but I can definitely be not here. And you leave. Kick open the door, you cut all the lights off in the house, and you walk out. Cut the lights off just to be an asshole. You may not know what you are, but that first step is knowing what you're not and knowing what you're not going to stand for. And if that line was drawn a long time ago, your party wouldn't have drifted to where it is now. They keep telling you that all of these elections are the most dangerous and the most important and everything else. But why? Why have they gotten to that point? Why? Engage that point. The country has slid further and further and further to the right. Both parties have slid further to the right. There's no one to vote against from the standpoint of Wall Street. There's no way to vote against the military-industrial complex. Ultimately, you're stuck with two corporate parties, with one saying, look, we will fuck you a little bit least harder than the others. But we are fucking you. Be very clear on that. Who represents workers in this process? Who represents the 99%? Who's not taking the corporate cash and doing the bidding of the corporate oligarchy? Those are the people I want to vote for. That's where I am. I'm sick of this vote blue no matter who shit. I'm done with that. I'm done, son. Call that shit a day. Ro Khanna hugs Silicon Valley. That's his main base. Yes, that is true, Gardner. That is very true. That is very true. The bill that he tried to put past, the full employment bill, yeah, to some degree that was a giveaway to Silicon Valley. So yeah, you're right. But he was far more attentive to the left than the others. That's my point. All right, I'll end this here, and I keep saying I'm going to end this here, and I still keep running my mouth. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the Patreon. Thanks all.